What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and today we're going to take a look at the first sequel from the Universal Monsters, 1935's The Bride of Frankenstein. starring Boris Karloff, Colin Clive, Valerie Hobson, Elsa Lanchester, Gavin Gordon, Douglas Walton, E. Clive, and Dwight Fry. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And like I said during the introduction, today we're going to take a look at the first sequel from the Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein, which some people argue is better than the original Frankenstein. How do I feel about it? We'll just have to wait till the end. But our movie opens on a dark and stormy night as Percy, Bysshe Shelley, and Lord Byron praise Percy's wife, Mary Shelley, for her story of Frankenstein and his monster. Mary reminds the two men that her intention for writing the novel was to impart a moral lesson, the consequences of a mortal man who tries to play God. Mary then tells the two men that she has more of the story to tell. And the scene then shifts to the end of the 1931 film, Frankenstein, which takes place in the year 1899. We find the villagers gathered around the burning windmill, cheering the apparent death of the monster. Hans, who is the father of little Maria from the first film, wants to see the monster's bones. But Hans ends up falling into a flooded pit underneath the mill, where the monster, having survived the fire, strangles him. Hauling himself from the pit, the monster then casts Hans's wife to her death. The monster then encounters Minnie, who flees in terror. The body of Henry Frankenstein, who is thought to have died at the windmill, is then returned to his fiancée Elizabeth at his ancestral castle home. Minnie arrives to sound the alarm about the monster, but her warning goes unheeded. Elizabeth, seeing Henry move, realizes that he is still alive. Henry is nursed back to health by Elizabeth, and Henry renounces his creation, but still believes that he is destined to unlock the secret of life and immortality. And a hysterical Elizabeth cries that she foresees death in Henry's future. Henry then visits the lab of former mentor Dr. Pretorius, where Pretorius shows Henry several homunculi that he has created. Pretorius wishes to work with Henry in order to create a mate for the monster, with the proposed venture involving Pretorius growing an artificial brain while Henry gathers the parts for the mate. The monster then saves a young shepherdess from drowning, but her screams upon seeing him alert two hunters who shoot and injure the monster. The hunters raise a mob that sets out in pursuit. Captured and trussed to a pole, the monster is hauled to a dungeon and chained. Left alone, he breaks his chains, overpowers the guards, and escapes into the woods. That evening, the monster follows the sound of a violin playing Ave Maria and encounters an old, blind hermit who thanks God for sending him a friend. The hermit teaches the monster words like friend and good, and even shares a meal with him. Two lost hunters then stumble upon the cottage and recognize the monster. The monster attacks the hunters and accidentally burns down the cottage as the hunters lead the hermit away. Taking refuge from another angry mob in a crypt, the monster spies Dr. Pretorius, and his cronies, Carl and Ludwig, breaking open a grave. The henchman departs as Pretorius stays to enjoy a light supper. The monster approaches Pretorius and learns that the doctor plans to create a mate for him. Henry and Elizabeth, now married, are visited by Pretorius, and when Henry expresses his refusal to assist with Pretorius's plans, Pretorius calls in the monster, who demands Henry's help. Henry once again refuses, and Pretorius orders the monster out, secretly signaling him to kidnap Elizabeth. Pretorius guarantees her safe return upon Henry's participation. Henry returns to his tower laboratory, where, despite himself, he begins to grow excited over his work. After being assured of Elizabeth's safety, Henry completes the bride's body. A storm rages as the final preparations are being made to bring the bride to life. Her bandage-wrapped body is raised through the roof, where electricity is harnessed from lightning to animate her. Henry and Pretorius lower her, and after realizing their success in bringing her to life, remove her bandages and help her to stand. The monster comes down the stairs after killing Carl on the rooftop and sees his brand new mate. The monster, excited, reaches out to her and asks, "Friend?" And the bride screams, rejecting him. The dejected monster observes, "She hate me like the others." As Elizabeth races to Henry's side, the monster rampages through the laboratory, where Pretorius warns that the monster's actions are about to destroy them all. The monster pauses and tells Henry and Elizabeth, "Go, you live, go," and turns to Pretorius and the bride and says, "You stay, we belong dead." While Henry and Elizabeth flee, the monster looks at the bride, sheds a tear, and pulls a lever to trigger the laboratory and the tower's destruction as our film comes to its end. Okay. This film is one of those rarities out there where the sequel is definitely as good as, if not better, than the original. What would have made this the perfect sequel, in my opinion, is two little things that got changed. And you may feel I'm nitpicking them, but I feel like it's enough of a notice for somebody who really pays attention to these films that it just kind of sits with you funny. First of all, the actress who played Elizabeth changed. And I get, sometimes things happen. But pretty much everybody else from the major roles was back. But the actress who played Elizabeth was different. As such, the actress who plays Elizabeth in this one was a little bit more overdramatic as opposed to the actress from the original Frankenstein. And I feel that took away just a little bit. The other change is they changed the name of Maria's father. In the first film, I believe his name was Ludwig, but there was another Ludwig character in Bride of Frankenstein. In this movie, they named him Hans. But it's just enough of a little notice that if you pay attention closely, it's like, wait a minute, it's not his name. Again, you may feel like I'm nitpicking just a little bit, but somebody that's seen these two movies quite a few times, it kind of gets in your head a little bit, and it's like, wait a minute, It's not entirely right. And I don't know if I like that. Other than that, the movie is superb. And I definitely want to make sure that I give Elsa Lanchester the credit that she deserves for having the double role in this film. Double role, you say? Yeah, because not only is she the bride of Frankenstein, obviously, but she's also the role of Mary Shelley in the very beginning of the film. There she is. And then, of course, she goes on to become the Bride of Frankenstein. Got to give it up to her for the double role here, because this was during a time when a lot of people weren't doing that. And I love the contrast of how Mary Shelley became the Bride of Frankenstein within the context of the story. Considering she is the author of the story, the woman who created it then becomes the bride. I always just loved that little twist there in the production and everything. But such a good movie, such a great story. You know, Colin Clive, Dwight Fry, Karloff, Lanchester, just can't go wrong. When it comes to my rating for The Bride of Frankenstein, despite my couple of little complaints, I give it 5 out of 5. It's damn near the perfect movie, with those couple of exceptions, which, if you've only seen these a couple times, you haven't really watched them to the lengths that I have, you probably won't even notice it. But for someone who's seen these movies so many times like me, you do pick up on those things. And despite that, I still feel that this movie is a 5 out of 5, mainly because of the monster and the blind hermit. There is so much love and compassion and learning in that 5, maybe 10 minutes of time in the movie. You really start to see this change in the monster, keeping in mind that he had a criminal brain, but he's being taught good food. You know, smoke isn't bad. He starts smoking. He's been afraid of fire for all this time, and still kind of is afraid of fire. But when fire is used for smoke, to smoke a cigar or a cigarette, all of a sudden he's laughing and he becomes jovial, and he's not as afraid anymore. Such a great way to humanize the monster and make it be seen that even though he has a criminal brain, he can still be reformed. And that's the key to that scene and that whole interaction, in my opinion, is despite the fact that the monster is supposed to be evil, the monster has a criminal brain, he can be reformed, he can be taught, he can change. And I love where they were going with that with him. Unfortunately, they started to regress once we got to Son, Ghost, meets the Wolfman, etc. With Bride of Frankenstein, 5 stars for me. I'm curious, those of my fans out there that have seen The Bride of Frankenstein, what do you guys think? Let me know. If you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over here. If you're watching after work, a little bit later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down here. I'm curious to know what all my fans think of The Bride. Whatever you do, though, when you get out there on social media, to leave me those comments, make sure you try to get those hashtags trending. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios, hashtag Renegades Reviews, hashtag Renegade Returns, and of course, the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade JJ Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag Statboy Approved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, when we take a look at the first sequel in the Dracula line of things, and that is 1936's Dracula's Daughter, starring Gloria Holden, Otto Kruger, Marguerite Churchill, Irving Pitchell, Hallowell Hobbs, Hedda Hopper, Gilbert Emery, Edward Van Sloan, and E. E. Clive. Once again, Edward Van Sloan, E. E. Clive. You're starting to see a lot of repetition in the casting. Like I told you, this was the studio era. Everyone was contracted to a specific studio. So it wasn't like it is today, where you go make a film for Warner Brothers, and you go make a film for New Line, then you go make a film for Miramax, and then you go make a film for Disney, then you go make a film for Paramount. You were contracted to Universal. Universal put you in whatever Universal wanted to put you in. So you see a lot of repetition in names. Dwight Fry, Edward Van Sloan, MVPs of these series. I've said it before, I'll say it again, and we'll definitely be getting to some more MVPs as we get further through the Universal Monsters. To all my loyal fans and viewers out there that tuned in for the premiere, leaving your thoughts and comments over here, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Likewise, all my loyal fans and viewers tune in just a little bit later in the day, watching on demand, leaving your thoughts and comments down here. Thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate all my loyal fans and viewers that tune in on a regular basis. Show me that love. Show me that support. Going back to the archives, watching old episodes of Renegades of Wrestling, Dads on Wrestling, Stat Boy Rants, the old audio show of Renegades Reviews, After the Bell with Jeff Meacham, etc. Trying to get those viewership hours up for me and boosted so I can eventually get monetized, make some money on this endeavor. Thank you to each and every one of you. Tune in and join me today, and I will see you guys next time.